much. Let's do this. Wake you up a little bit. Say hello to me. Hello. Thank you. Say hello to me. Hello. Thank you. Turn to someone at your table and say hello. Hello. Thank you. Thank you. One more time. Say hello to me. Hello. Thank you. Okay, we're woken up. We're going to talk about design. How about that? I'm going to talk to you guys about design from the outside in. Okay? Because that's really the only way to do design. We are actually in a moment where education, and I don't care if it's public, private, charter, or what, we're in the middle of a design flaw. Okay? We have design flaws almost everywhere you look. Most school districts, and David and I are in 30 cities a year, and we talk to you guys, and you're all doing fantastic things, amazing things, but not quite holistically in every place, right? Kale really impresses the heck out of me, and a lot of you guys in the room impress the heck out of me. There's some people that aren't here that couldn't join us at this particular date that are doing incredible stuff, and we sort of count those up. But let me just tell you, we are at a moment of design flaw. When Dyson reinvented the vacuum cleaner, that was a revolution for vacuum cleaners. Does anybody have a Dyson? Totally love it, right? I always talk about my Dyson, super funny. So let's look at other industry first to see what I'm talking about, okay? Let's talk about why I'm even saying that. First of all, business has become the internet. The people in business have become the internet. That's a pretty hard thing to think through. Let me show you why I think that way. First of all, everybody in the business world got different communication skills years ago, years before education did, okay? They all knew how to use Skype. They all were already tweeting long before most people in education. They knew how to use documents, whereas a lot of educators are just going like, Google Docs are so awesome still at the large conferences. And I'm like flabbergasted. They just figured out what a spreadsheet was. I'm like, wow, really? That's amazing. So they've become tech already, right? The other thing about the tech incursion in business is data, 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 data all day long in business. They're making spreadsheets of things. They've got data analysis like you can't believe. They've made charts of everything, and you get fired if you're not on the chart right? So they're all in on accountability. They have been for 20 years. Now that pressure in the outside world, that cultural reality that's happening in business is coming to roost on your door. They're expecting you to be like them, right? That's why you feel pressure, because they're living this and they've been doing it for 20 years. They're also nowhere and everywhere. So if you were to watch corporate America like I did, because I'm super old, started out, everybody had their own offices. It was like a big deal to have a corner office, right? You had an office, everybody's offices. Pretty soon there's more people in your offices. Pretty soon there was cubicle farms outside, and only a few people got the offices in the perimeter. And then there was offices in the interior, and the cubicle farms were in the exterior. And then pretty soon there was no cubicle farms of people. Then there was just open areas for the offices, and everybody sort of worked together. It was a loud sort of bee-sounding hive of people in corporate America. And then it got to the point where most people were working from home, and they hoteled only in the office. And now, like my friend Bob at Gartner, he never goes to the office. He's home all the time, right? So you have, money. And there's people like you all over the world, right? So corporations move to exteriorize office space, right? How many of you company representatives work in an office? Not from home. See, there's not one hand go up in this room. That's what they're living. In the meantime, all you guys in schools, you go somewhere every day. You see the big difference between you and the outside world? So, tech is also making people be on 24/7. Why? Because the internet is on 24/7. They've become the internet. So they're on 24/7. When we did the Overdrive research project paper, all of their executives talked with us and my designers to get that paper to it done in 3 days on the weekend. That means I worked the weekend, the writers worked the weekend, the designers worked the weekend, they worked the weekend. That's corporate America today. Doesn't mean that we didn't take all of Thursday off, right? We're that flexible. It's totally different time reality and schedule reality than schools have. But kids are seeing their parents do this. And they're wondering why they're in such inflexible environments. So if you look at technology, the other thing that's happened is that it went from a one-size-fits-all Ford Model T world to two-valued logic for a really long time. You could buy the red car or the blue car, and that's all you could pick from. Remember those days? To now an infinity-based logic. That is a symbolization of infinity-based logic. And it's actually because the internet is an infinity-based logic machine. You can pick out anything from anywhere, as long as you understand Chinese sizing, right? When you go to order on Amazon, you can pretty much find almost anything. You can buy a house on Amazon, right? It's an infinity-based logic. So the internet is the reality of the younger population. They think anything's available there, and they're right. And then they come to school, and it's very authoritarian, it's regimented, it's scheduled. They're put in a bulk classed group, and they don't get it. It's an alien world. And that friction is the bane of public education, of all education. I am totally focused, and Learning Counsel is totally focused on, where's the middle path through the woods of what you have to be because you have so many requirements hitting you, how you can spend this money and how you can spend that money, and the fact that teachers have to have a certain number of hours, you have to have butts in seats, you know, and you've got all these rules, right? How do we handle that world with blending it in with this world, right? How do we really do that? And a lot of you guys are doing a fairly good job of that, but I think we have to go a little bit further, and that's what the special report is that we put in front of you. It's about design. It's about a new design that's not just classroom and teacher focused. It's a design that flips the whole institution on its back like a turtle. Okay, and let me show you how that's going to work. So first of all, let's talk about culture before I get totally into the structural model shift. Culturally, right now, we have what's called a phone-first generation in front of all schools. And schools are still telling kids don't use your phone. But we have schools starting to pop up and say, we're not worried about the iPads, we're not worried about the Chromebooks, we're just going to give everybody a smartphone. Whoa. Why? 86% of Americans have a smartphone. The average American has one by age 10. They use it every 2 minutes, right? How many people have kids? Okay, is this not true for you? Right? Phone first generation means that 64% on the last Black Friday and Cyber Monday of all sales in America on the internet were done by smartphones, not computers. Okay, this is a really big difference. This is telling you what the public outside's life is like and what they're expecting when they arrive. They're expecting that these have utility and use for everything. That's why Overdrive now offers their books on, you know, the mobile book reading. I've read 5 books in the last couple of months on airplanes on my mobile phone. Right? That's where my reading happens. So the other thing about culture is that we're in a minute-to-minute news cycle now. We've shortened attention span. This has huge repercussions for not only how you teach, what you teach, and how much you chunk it down. People are really alarmed about this in most of education. But it has an effect, and if you're not watching these outside cultural influences as impacts back on you, your effectiveness goes down. Right? You don't understand why these kids can't sit there and spend an hour reading something. They can't. They have no inculcation in that. They can't sit still that long. They haven't been taught to do that. So you have to keep underscaling the basics of how you're going to get kids to actually learn. So these are the new problems that have come to your door, right? Politics. This is tricky ground. Let's see if anybody throws anything at me. I'm not going to get too political. Support for choice right now in America is 62%, or the majority of Americans, that's all political parties, I'm not going to be political here, support school choice, despite the avalanche of negative press. Why? Not for the reasons you really think there is. It's really because they have choice in everything else in life. Which neighborhood they're going to be in, which car they're going to pick, which they're going to do online, right? They have choice everywhere. And they come here and you're going to tell them everything what to do? No, you're not. Not for this generation. Also, the support is really strong in the Latino, African American, and millennial communities. This is a surprise to most educators. They think the opposite. And actually, the polling shows the opposite is true. So 64% of Americans also don't support Common Core, mostly because they've been told it's all wrong, but it's not all wrong in terms of how you're going to be able to do personalized pathways. It's all wrong in terms of how it's been implemented so far, but they don't know that, right? I'm actually a big proponent of things that break things down into little bits so that you can put them together in different puzzle pieces. I think it works if you're going to move towards fully personalized learning. Okay, what's the trajectory of the markets right now? So right now, we have what, 56.6 million kids in the United States? 22% of them have opted out. We're past the point of avalanche, of choice. Here's the missing number most people won't tell you. And Kale, I'm sorry, I have to argue with your NCES statistics because 90% are not in the school in public. So many states count the unschooler and the homeschooler with the public. It's a hidden, invisible number. It took a lot of research by the Learning Counsel to figure that number out, but it's 7%. It's bigger than the charter movement. People don't know this. But I sat with my hometown, Bemidji, Minnesota, superintendent last year, and I said, what's your opt-out like? He goes, 25%. Rural is almost as bad as it is in urban, but urban is worse, especially in California. Urbans are out. They're like, I don't have to send my kid here. All summer long, the advertising for the unschooling, homeschooling, huge in California. You hear it on all the radio stations. It's everywhere. Every time you do if you search for any curriculum online, you're going to get pelted with ads. Mommy, I don't have to go to school anymore. Look at this. What are the reasons to not go to a physical school? Security. Arguments with bathroom policies, right? Anything that you're doing culturally, they think they can get out, they're out. Why? Because this is the generation of choice. They believe in choice, and they're going to find a way. So right now, 14% of the population is in charter or unschool, another percentage is in the private school movement. This is huge. And if you talk to some of the psychiatrists or psychologists that study sort of human movements, like the acceptance of certain cultural norms, it's at 16%. Actually, once you hit 10% of people accepting something a certain way, pretty soon that whole society will accept that way, okay? It's just a matter of time. So we've had a lot of those examples since the civil rights era in this society that you can point to, right? Once a certain population hit it, it was over. So the reason that I get on the road like a crazy person with David and go to all these cities is because I want to save public education. I want to find the path through the woods that makes this still relevant. A lot of you guys are finding the path, bits and pieces of it. So the journey to transformation, if you look at all adoption over time, is you start out with the early innovators, the rah-rah people, a lot of you guys are in this room today, early adopters. Right now, in the national average of the market, 2018, we're in the early majority of adoption of all technology. That's all tech. That's software, hardware, the full immersion, right? By the 2019, all the way through 2021, we're in the middle of software complexity. You guys are having a real hard time with how you integrate everything, how you look at this dashboard, that dashboard, put this thing, put your roster into that. It's a big mess, right? Making everything work together and giving a teacher all of this load to use is hard. We're in the really hard, we're in the bottleneck point of the market. This is hard. Then we're going to get to the point, the front end of the market, some of you in the room, by mid-2019, all the way through 2025, you're going to see the whole market shift to a structural conversation because your teachers can't do it all. Having the teacher be the only load-bearing wall in the building doesn't work. And you're going to find that out pretty quickly. How many of you guys have found this out already? You're finding, yeah, like they're going nuts. They're like, I quit, I'm out, right? I can't do it, forget it. I can't like build all the lessons and deliver all the lessons and personalize for every single kid on every single topic and every single subject. I can't do it. And then reiterate and do it all over again in every lesson. Can't be done, it's not human, right? Can't do it. That's why Kale talked about building a viable curriculum pattern. Okay, but now you've got this outside world who's expecting real personalization. Why? Because they can get it everywhere else. Do you think you can go to the doctor and get the same diagnosis as everyone else? No, that's not what people expect. They're not going to, he had cancer, so do I. What? That's not going to work. So personalization is happening in every other industry except here. So this pressure is never going to go away. It's going to get worse. So that's why everyone's driving at personalization. That's why we talk about this scale every time we come see you in your individual cities. The first year we were on the road, we talked about strategy. Then we talked about tactics. Then we said, then you're going to face plant into software. It's going to be really hard. Your teachers are going to have revolts. You're going to have to hit a year of sustainability, or you're going to have to back yourself up, like some of the other speakers were talking about today, and like just go slow to go fast kind of a thing. You're going to have to get real. Then you're going to hit analytics. A little bit like Blackwater was talking about. You're like, let's make sense of stuff for real, right? But now, the front end of the market, you guys that are most advanced, you've hit the design issue. You're not designed for this. You're a broom in the age of vacuum cleaners. You get it? So design is a really important thing, but not the way you think it is. Because most educators think only with where they come from. They don't think like e-commerce companies, okay? So we're going to talk about design, but where you're going, the end point is the age of experience, becoming an expositional center of such thrilling Disney-like quality that kids will get out of their pajamas and go. Otherwise, they're not going to go. Why should they? Both their parents work from home. So you have the need to do a lot of what Cale was showing you with all the thrilling labs, right? I'm predicting that this next year is going to be the year of talking about labs. And I know SHI Corporation was here, Shai was here. Where are you guys? They ran away. There you are. They're talking about lab in a box now and lab coolness. It's cool. All right, so the wicked problem that you have, and there's this philosopher called Horst Riddle that talks about, quote unquote, big market wicked problems. You guys have a wicked problem. And if you've ever looked at budgeting in a school, you know what I'm talking about. It's a wicked problem. Because no matter what the feds do or the states do, there's still inequity. Why could that possibly be? That's impossible that we keep throwing so many solutions at this, and it's still, we have inequity. How's that even possible? Because how it's done in execution. So a wicked problem is one where you're solving one aspect of the problem, reveals or creates another, sometimes even more complex problem. Anybody experiencing this as you're putting more tech in? You fix one thing and then the water starts spouting out of somewhere else? Yeah, because it's design. So the characteristic that defines a wicked problem is that solving it requires large numbers of people to also change their attitudes and behaviors. Anybody experiencing this? Yeah, that's a wicked problem. Those are all indications the problem is innate to the structure and not the mere methods, practices, or policy. It's innate to the structure. You're structurally insufficient for the problem at hand. So let's talk about structure. I love that Cale shared a little bit of this. He has a different order of the what, why, how. But in the why world, the problem is kids must be educated. That's why we have education in the first place, because somebody's got to educate these kids. They can't run around like little barbarians all their lives. We have to do that. And then you get up to the what, and you decide, let's have a school. Let's do that. Let's just pool our money as a society, and let's have schools so everybody doesn't have to teach everybody. Okay, so that's a structure. And then you get into the how. Most schools are only into the how, the tactics, what subjects, what schedule, what tech. But society is totally questioning the what. They're like, why are we doing this? Why is it this way, right? So the first thing schools did was, let's have an online school. There's a separate little thing over here for those other kinds of people. Like there's another kind of people, okay? No. So it was two lanes. You could have the normal, vanilla, and the chocolate over here, and you can go over there and be the other kind of people. Well, there is no other kind of people. I'm just saying. But the question of institutions has now gone as deep as some people, and these are the unschoolers, they're questioning why. They're all the way down at the why. Why are we doing it this way? We got YouTube. Like they can learn everything that way, right? So let's just give it some perspective. Socrates is said to have told young Plato that writing and literacy were an invention that would surely turn young brains to mush. He didn't actually use the word mush, I'm paraphrasing, because there wasn't mush for brains back in those days. But he did believe that, and here's why. They lived in an age at that time where a brain would turn to mush if it wasn't forced with Socratic questioning to have to think. And if you just gave that mind a bunch of stuff in writing that's already been thought through, that brain would become lazy. That's what Socrates thought. Look how far we've come. There's some truth in that, right? So what are you going to be designing? First of all, let's talk about personalization from this other angle that I'm giving you. First of all, regular people would define personalization as one-to-one mentoring with direct guidance on materials, okay? Just for them, independently of other students. This is the same attitude people have with doctors. Like, I don't want to go to the doctor and like get the same treatment as everybody else. I don't want a tweaked lesson. I want one just for me. So this is why I'm saying this is an inevitability in the market. You are inevitably going to go down the road of true personalization, not because I'm saying it's cool. I'm not saying it's cool. I'm saying it's the expectation because of everything else. And until you start looking out to design in, you don't get it. So this is from Alt School. As you can see on these two different kids' dashboard, there's only one thing that's the same. Which one is it? Somebody want to say? That's right. Otherwise, it's different. That's what I mean by real personalization. So if you look at the future, if we treat student consumers like consumers, and we orchestrate and change our infrastructure to be consumption-oriented, then we're moving to what is called in your special report an independent demand rather than dependent demand structure. Now, if you understand e-commerce, independent versus dependent demand structure means you don't know what they want before they get there. See, right now, all of schooling is built like you know what they want, you know what you're going to have to do to them before they even get there. Wow. Retail doesn't know that. They guess, and they create enough line card, enough catalog to hopefully hit every interest and no more. It's a very precise science, very precise, right? You move to an independent demand generation, that means the kids are going to arrive and you don't know what they want and you're going to structure after the fact. Wow, how much is that going to change what you're going to do? So there's a little piece of this in your special report so you can think about it and beat me up about it. But it's not going to look like this. That's not going to be cool. It's already not cool. What's cool is for your places to be what Kale's talking about, theaters of experience, right? If they're that cool, people will go. They'll buy that. They buy Build-A-Bear right now. They'll pay like $150 for a bear you can dress up, right? It's awesome. So you're going to have to be a hybrid. You're not going to have your two-lane idea. These kids are over here in the online world because they're weird and rare. And then everybody else is doing the same with the manufacturing line model. No, 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 no. You're going to create a hybrid, and you're going to do it because you're going to lean your whole organization on algorithms. Don't be afraid of algorithms. I can teach you math. So education design for digital is something that we've been talking about in all these cities. That's how I know a lot of you guys. But what I see on your faces, I normally don't reveal until we get to this national gathering. That is, there's a lot of things that David and I saw was fear this year. For the first time. And we're happy because it means you're actually confronting the truth of your real change. And the data is showing it. Superintendent Dr. Tova Bendo, she said when we were back in New York this year that they're looking for this prescriptive, predictive, fantastic data analytic. They're all in. They realize how deep this well goes. And that's what we're starting to hear all over the country. So the signs of ripening to true personalization, this is the first look that anybody's had now at the 2018 Digital Curriculum Strategy Survey that's just going to come out. I'm only going to give you a few data points here at the gathering. You're going to get the rest when I come out to your local cities. Individualization remains the #2 intention for strategy in all schools in America, right? Huge focus on this. Doesn't mean it's actually being executed on, but it means executives are knowing and they are focused on this as their #2 point. The #3 it's #3 in their district policy advocacy. So they're telling their superintendents, or the superintendent's telling them, or the teacher's telling them, listen, we got to have individualization. We cannot keep treating every kid the same. And 25% of schools have a disaggregated offering. Isn't that amazing? So in other words, they're building personalized pathways even for kids that aren't in their school, for all those 7% I just told you about. They're not physically in the building, but they're coming for their plan, so they get to be counted. Okay, here's the other new thing, and this is why I'm so excited about the market, because it's actually moved away from sort of a happy-go-lucky, la-la-la, technology, la-la-la, to confronting the truth, the reality of what it's going to take. So for the first time since 2014, the whole market has leveled up to say their number one problem is money. They didn't say that before, even though it's always been the problem, right? The fact that they're saying it now is mean that they're looking at the truth of what it's going to take to really change. It's a lot more money than we have right now. It means we've got to stop spending on other things so that we can get there from where we're at, right? Number two, digital curriculum training, which was last year's number one, tells you everybody in the market, except for the few laggards, has enough software to be overwhelmed by it, right? And it's not being used. I want to give you the design basic. The design basic in the e-commerce and the shipping worlds, which are the two models I really want you to look at, that we looked at in depth, are based and predicated around a routing form. You know, like those slips that you put on a package when you're going to ship it? Has barcodes, that kind of thing. A routing form is like a lesson plan. A routing form says, oh, what's the goal? Oh, your package, you got to get to Philadelphia. So you're going to go through these 16 hubs, airplane, truck, bus, back to hub, and then you're going to get to your destination, okay? A routing form for a child in math might be 16 routing forms. You're going to start them out on the lowest routing form. Europe does a lot of this. And then they're going to check off in their own agency, accomplishing each one, but it will have automatic intervals with teaching and other students, pre-programmed. That's called workflow. It's the missingest thing in the market today. Because right now, everything that's built for the market is either built from the administrative view, how to run your teachers, the student information system, or it's built from the teacher view, how to run your own little universe with lesson plans, okay? It's not looked at from a workflow issue across all this way. Does that make sense? It's looked at from a silo. That's not going to work. FedEx better not look at packages as a silo because they'll never get out of Philadelphia, right? You think Amazon looks at everything as a silo? No. They even random store stuff in their warehouses because they lean on technology so hard. They don't even care where you stick it on the shelf. They're going to find it later. Why? Because their tracking mechanisms are that good. So you look at how you're going to design education from a workflow methodology, and then you start to understand what's missing in software and what is going to have to happen for you to get to full personalization. But it starts with a very basic concept, and that's the routing form. Okay? How you route one package to the next thing. So the design basic, and you'll notice that we have a FedEx thing in, is the lean on that really sophisticated software. If you can understand shipping and how complex it is, that one airplane, this is the airline industry, one airplane doesn't get out of Houston because of a storm, it has a tertiary effect on all of the sequence planes after that. Why? Because it was supposed to go from Houston to Philadelphia and then to New York and then back, right? So the next 3 flights are going to be affected. What happens is a chain of logic automatically kicks in algorithms and tells all those people on all of those other flights what they're going to do for their next connection, right? We've all been in those situations in airports. So that's what happens to truly personalize your travel experience. So if you look at the old organization for the new, it's very top-down. Superintendents, everybody's at the top, and kids are at the bottom. Versus the new organizational chart. This is what we predict is going to have to happen. So at the very top would be the student connecting in at the very next interval with what we call a house leader. Has anybody read the Harry Potter series? You know what a house leader is? So you're Gryffindor or Slytherin house. But the reason for this is a virtual identity and a physical identity. Why? Because your house is going to look like a room like this, maybe with beanbag chairs and couches. Not all tables and chairs, right? Power for everywhere. But you'll mostly be in your house doing screen learning with some teacher oversight, maybe a paraprofessional oversight, and then you're flighted out for projects and classes at will from your hub. But otherwise, you're always in your hub. Does that make sense? So if you physically have to be somewhere, you're there. But you don't have to physically be there, because you could also be doing that from home. You see how this is going to work? This is a different pattern than we have right now in schools, which are mostly classroom focused. So then you have subject leaders, and maybe you even have remote teachers. At the district leadership or school leadership level, you would have applied assessment and analytics. You actually have to have professionals in that. You have to have professionals in curriculum path curation and contingency paths. Okay? So if child graduates in 9th grade from calculus, now what do I do with them for 3 years? You better have some really cool extracurricular activities bundled beyond that, right? Or maybe they just go to college, like in Kale's district. Data management integrations is going to be really huge for you guys in the next 5 years. It's going to be relentless, and it will burn down the house in many places because it's hard. Physical staff and space logistics is going to be a whole new arena of employment in schools. Why? Because if you're executing quality activities, project-based learning, you need stage managers, just like Hollywood, okay? Because you can't have the teacher do every one of those things. All right, so I'm not going to go too deep into that, but I'm going to go back to the fact that only way this will ever happen is to lean hard on back-end software. See, FedEx doesn't have a building where the packages arrive and then they figure everything out. The software is making algorithmic decisions in the back end before they ever hire people to do anything. And they can see peak demand coming long before it happens during the holiday season when everybody's shipping grandma a package, right? They can see it. So they reallocate or staff up long before this ever happens. That's what I mean by running as a systems mentality leadership versus running as an after effect with augmented technology. So if you look at that organizational chart, behind it is a giant web of software that right now in the education sector is an incomplete, and the most incomplete thing about it is workflow. Not the ability to personalize necessarily, but the flow of work between disparate systems. So this is an integration issue. So if you look at the overall plan of how you would switch out technology, and this is in your special report too, you would start with being designed for digital from a workflow all the way back at what do you want to need, like Kale did. He knows that he can graduate kids directly into IBM. So that's like a local survey has been done, okay? So you front end your delivery model, because remember, you're dependent demand, and the independent demand is the outside world, okay? So you don't manufacture something until you know what it's wanted, right? So you would figure that out, then you'd strategize, then you'd put that all in your web portal marketing as choices. The individual logs in, registers, does their whole thing, select, select, select. Then the system's algorithms take effect and route that kid. Like, I know you want to take calculus, but you really need fractions first. So let's just put you in what you did have right now. This is where your specialty comes in, and you give them the exact right thing. And then the system is automatically, like I said, flighting them into classroom schedules. Okay? So you three, because you're in the same learning pattern, would automatically get a pop-up calendar. You need to arrive with this teacher over here at 10 o'clock on Thursday. For a reason, right? You four are all going to do a project on Friday at 1. This should be automatic. It's totally easy algorithms to build. But right now, we think of things from the opposite direction. We don't think of things from the student direction. If you think about roles, this is the other thing where I talked about the teacher being the only load-bearing wall in the building. It's not going to work. We're breaking teachers all across the nation. This is part of the pain that David and I saw in every city this year. You can't expect a teacher to do everything in complete personalization for every child if they have that many kids. It's not humanly possible. So if you had the structure, and this doesn't have to be for every instance, of a subject leader, let's talk about math first, or language learning. Then you have somebody else who's playing role 2, who is doing the lesson plan individualization, They're doing pre-assessment and applied analytics. So they take the pre-surveys and they go, hey, you're going to be in second grade math. So yeah, your twin sister is in third grade math. Sorry to say. That's the way it's going to be. And then the third role is a person who's staging activities. They're also the cleanup role for analytics. They're capturing data to feed back to role 2. But role 4 is your live teacher. But they're already prescripted as a live teacher. So they're not having to do every single role. It's the do every single role that's killing people. Because you can't get to personalization making them do it. They want to do it, but they can't get there. And you're not getting the data. Do you see the problems that gives you? You can't possibly truly personalize because you can't get the data entry out of the teacher because they're already doing everything else, right? So part of what I see is these majestic LMSs actually can fully personalize, but not necessarily all the workflow. And until you break up the roles, you can't get there anyway. So this is going to be a hot conversation in the next several years. How do you really do this? Here's what I think is totally cool about it. Not every teacher of the 3.3 million teachers in K-12 today is a really great teacher. Let's just be honest. Okay? But they might be a great lesson planner. They might be a great statistician. They might be a great stager. They might be a great data entry person. These are all necessary roles. But as Kale and I were saying earlier, you don't necessarily want to personalize all the learning. Can you imagine telling your teachers, we're going to have personalized sex ed? No, you're not. It's not going to work. One subject we're not going to personalize, I'm just saying right now. But there's a lot of other subjects that we're going to personalize, right? So if you look at all of those rules I just broke down, a lot of schools are never going to be able to afford 4 roles where they used to have 1. They can't even think with it. That's like, are you crazy? Get out of here, budget-wise, right? But they can think with creating a matrix. Maybe every one person that used to be a teacher gets to play 3 different roles. 1 for science, 1 for English, 1 for math. And they trade roles. But this matrix of roles is already something you see happening in the online schools. They have to do it because you have to have full-time people, and you don't have that full-time work to do this in 1 little role, so you have that person doing 6 other roles. Corporate America does this all the time. They don't silo your role. So think in the future of creating matrices. In your workbook or your special report is a whole discussion about starting back at design, then going through your data map, which is your data table, all the data you're collecting by field, your learning map, your UI, UX, analytics, and finally transparency. What you're going to be expected to do in the future is be totally transparent with what you're doing. Just like if I can go check an order on Amazon, right? Where is it? Oh, it's in Phoenix right now. It's on its way. It's great. The design don'ts are, don't think you're going to go to all-screen learning. That's dumb, because there's no reason to go to your building then. Okay? Don't think you're going to just tweak whole group learning in the next 10 years. If you don't get off that and go to true personalization, you probably won't survive. And don't change the classroom only and not the whole, because you overburden your teachers doing that, and it's only going to get worse. Okay? So I hope I freaked you out, guys. Because really, like I said, I'm looking at where's the survival path? How do you got to be? And that's really what I'm all about, because I love you guys. You people that are in the room today, and a lot of our other friends who couldn't be with us today, you're doing it. You're running the ball down the middle. I'm only telling you, here's the next thing. Role disaggregation, flip the structure, workflow. There you go. If we can get there through those mechanisms, then we will have truly transformed education the way it's expected to be transformed. And we save it. Well, thank you guys. I think my time is up. There's a whole workshop tomorrow on this. Thank you very much.